All right, dude. What's up?
Hey, Alex, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Happy to, man. First episode of the SoCal Powerlifting podcast, dude.
Is that what we're calling it?
For now, at least. SoCal Powercast, I think, is, Powercast kind of taken. Damn you, Mark Bell. But this is what we'll start out with, at least. So I'm sure you kind of have always envisioned having some kind of platform like this. I know you kind of do your own, very similar, Gym Growth Tactics. Check it out. But you're going to be a guest. So we're going to get into some stuff today. First thing I want to start with, man. So for those of you who don't know, I'm the general manager of SoCal Powerlifting. Zack's the owner. So dude, like, you open the powerlifting gym at 20, and to you, this didn't become kind of just something that is, yeah, I did that, whatever, on the next thing, because that's how you function. But I think you don't realize how crazy that is to a lot of people. So I wanted to first get into that. So, like, you're 20 years old. What made you think you could open a gym and have it not be, like, the biggest failure in the world? You're 20.
Yeah, so it's 26 now, so 6 years ago. Honestly, it came down to when you're young, you can make mistakes. And so the younger that you are, actually, I think that you should take more risks because hopefully, well, maybe you do have a family, but you probably don't.
Yeah.
You probably don't have any kids. You probably don't have a significant other that's super serious quite yet. And so really it's just all on you. And if things fail, you can probably redirect and figure it out later as you go through your 20s and your 30s. And so I think for me, I looked at 3 different scenarios. I looked at what's likely to happen, what was the best possible scenario, and then what's the worst possible scenario. And then the worst possible scenario was I put all this equipment in my mom's garage and work out in my mom's garage. And so I figured I'd work out. What really helped me, though, is I bootstrapped it, right? So I subleased space from another gym that was already operating. Mm-hmm. I believed in my coaching ability, and I already had clients that would follow me and paid 2 months up front. So I had more cash in hand to buy more equipment. And so it worked out in a very bootstrap kind of ground and pound way where I just threw it all together.
Yeah.
Never expected it to get this big, go this far, have this team. I just thought it'd be kind of a solo deal, but it's gotten here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. I think that's something a lot of people don't maybe know about how the gym started. Like, it was super bootstrapped at first. And I think, I've talked to a lot of people today that want to open their own gym or get into the coaching game, but they see where we are, where other big companies are, and they think they got to start their day one. And I think that fear holds people back.
Yeah, you're not going to have a finished product from the get-go, and we still don't have a finished product. Like I've told other entrepreneurs this, it's like, you're always going to feel like you're 80% there.
Yeah.
You're never going to feel like you're 100% there. And so there's always that feeling, and there should be the feeling of we can always improve, we can always get better. There's still more we need to tackle. For me, like, perfect was what I started with was a few, a couple combo racks, set of dumbbells, some cages, some barbells, and kilo plates. I'm like, cool, powerlifting gym.
Yeah.
And then for that, for a year, I threw all the money back into facility kept growing it. And then I realized it was the coaching that would really scale and grow, and went all in on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, man. I think, like, you're kind of getting into the financial barrier is like a big one to stop people from getting started, right? But a couple combo reps, a couple bars, it's not like you are dropping $100K to start with this.
Started with $5,000.
Yeah.
I had $5,000 because in college when I was coaching at Juggernaut and I had 4 jobs, I had $5,000 saved up, bought some bars and bought a bunch of stuff from Juggernaut when they closed, and then got a payment plan on that. So really it comes down to you need to get creative on how you can do it. And so if you really want something, like you really want to go and figure it out, you have to get creative on the way in which you can do it. So for me, that was I got a payment plan on some of the equipment. I was able to get some of my clients to pay up front 2 months. So people see like this barrier. Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's a feeling of, oh shoot, I need to start a gym with like $50,000. But do you? Like if you had to start with 10, how could you make that work? I subleased space from another facility. I didn't just go sign a lease. There are all of these plays you can make as long as you're just able to have a little bit of creativity, and people are typically willing to work with you.
Yeah.
And that's better than signing the lease and then having to take a big business loan and then, having being more leveraged there and potentially having more risk. My worst case scenario is like, I started the sublease with a revenue split with this other gym, and so they took 60% of our total revenue. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, there was literal no downside other than they're just taking the revenue. If I had made $10, they take $6, but cool, I net 4, right? If I make $0, they don't get anything. I don't get anything, but neither do they. And so there was no risk other than spending the money on the equipment, time maybe. And so I was able to create that scenario. And obviously looking back, like, oh my gosh, like that was amazing. But there are still deals like that out there. You just have to go find it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think stuff like that is what made you kind of be able to take that initial step. For a lot of people that I, talk to about this stuff, it's the young kids in the gym that want to do their own thing. And it's, oh, well, one day I'll save up. One day I'll save up. And then you talk to the older guys in the gym and it's like, yeah, I always thought that. And then I had family, I had this, I had that, all these other obligations where they're not able to take that jump. So like you said, you start at 5K. It's that first step can be very costly.
Definitely.
Cool, man. One thing I never really got into with you on all this was I've talked to you a little bit about your parents' reaction, so I'd want to hear more about that. But they're like the societal reaction, man, because from an outsider seeing you already doing it, my first found out that you already doing it was like, wow, this is incredible. But I'm sure if I was 20 and one of my buddies was like, yeah, I'm going to drop out of school and start my own powerlifting gym, like I'm calling him an idiot, right? I hate looking back now, seeing that it is possible that I would have called him an idiot, but at 20 years old, I definitely would have doubted.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure you had friends talking shit. I'm sure a bunch of people didn't think you could do it. How did you just like tune that out?
Yeah, I think, like looking back, this kind of sounds silly. Like I didn't really have that many friends. Like I have a few key friends, I kept in touch with and stuff. College, I've kind of head down, just like did my own thing, didn't really make any friends in college. I think that people didn't realize its legitimacy. That was the difference. Is like I sort of like did it and like didn't talk about it. I was like, oh, like I'm starting this thing kind of thing, and I didn't really talk about it until it spoke for itself, I guess. Because to me it was like, I guess there's nothing to be proud of quite yet. Yeah. The biggest thing for me was definitely the parents' reaction of what he. So yes, there was definitely doubt there. It came from both of my parents were corporate W-2 employees their whole life. They didn't really have any entrepreneurial experience. My mom's dad, so my grandpa was like a failed entrepreneur time and time again. And so she grew up moving from state to state with new venture to new venture. And so there's just a bad taste in her mouth. Yeah. And so as a parent, you just want what's best for your kid. And usually that means go to school, you go to college, you get a good job, you live a good life. I think in today's society, it's a little bit different. It's changing. But for them, that was a little bit scary because, they were nervous that I would, quote unquote, fail. But I look back and I'm like, who cares if I would have failed? I would have figured somebody else out, gone back to school. There's other options. You're so young. Right. From a societal standpoint, I mean, the biggest insecurities were who would take me seriously when I'm 20. So that was a really big insecurity for me when I was selling clients and selling coaching and things like that. I would almost have to like what's the word? I would have to, felt like I had to like really flaunt what I have and like prove that I'm smart because I didn't want them to admit, like not believe in me because of how old I was. Yeah. Looking back, that stuff didn't really matter as much. But it's kind of like when you're speaking with someone who maybe like they understand kinesiology or science and they're talking in these big words to like show how smart they are. Like I would probably do stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I need them to think I know what I'm doing. When, of course I do. I have a gym. I'm doing this thing. From a friend's perspective, they didn't really understand how legit it was until it was legit. And so at that point, they're all just like, oh my gosh, like, this is incredible. Yeah, I didn't really get any hate from my circle of people. But I did sacrifice a lot of time. I mean, there was probably 2 years where I just didn't hang out with anybody because I was kind of in the weeds and in the trenches working a lot and coaching a lot and sessions, sales, all of it, right? So that was probably the toughest part.
That's fair. Yeah. Just kind of kept it small, and it was like, Zach's doing his fun little powerlifting thing.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, it's not little. The fun little powerlifting thing until I remember there was like a Christmas, maybe it was in 2018 or 19. I hung out with some buddies from high school. It was Christmas breaks. Everyone came back from college. Mm-hmm. They were all still in college at this point. And like they realized, like once they saw it and stuff, like they realized it was crap. And I had one friend even like, especially like buying his drinks and stuff. And that was a weird situation. And we some of my other friends joke about that, and I kind of cut that guy out of my life after that. Is kind of weird, but yeah, it's hard. I mean, being an entrepreneur, especially younger, where people aren't necessarily doing that stuff quite yet, they don't understand it. It's just a lack of understanding. And then at that time, to a lot of my friends, their biggest concern was, what party are we going to this Friday? What chick am I taking home? Sure. And then I gotta get a C or a B or an A on my final, right? And I'm over here like trying to figure out put books and accounting and stuff. It's a whole different game. Yeah. But then now you look at it, right, and you're able to go enjoy your weekends and like live the life you want to live, while they're kind of slaves to those corporate jobs. They're still going to be it out, or maybe still stuck living at home, or whatever the situation is.
then paid off now. You're just getting to experience life later, but doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like any form of investing where you sort of sacrifice the short term for the long term. Again, hindsight's 2020. I really didn't have any of this idea going in. I didn't think it would get to this level. I thought it would always be in the gym, coaching nonstop. Like, it was just solo endeavor. It's literally written out on a goal sheet that I had for myself. Like, literally, I think at the 5-year point was like, I have 50 clients and I do seminars around the country and things like that. Obviously, the landscape's completely changed from there. But ultimately, yeah, like, I have freedom now where a lot of them don't. And then I think where my biggest struggle is finding that balance between, okay, what am I about to enjoy?
Yeah.
But then how hard should I still be working so I don't lose momentum?
Yeah. Yeah, that's still a tough balance, I think, on a somewhat smaller scale that I struggle with, right? Where it's like, they'll give me all the freedom to do whatever I want in this job, but then it's like, you know, at 3 a.m. I have an idea of how we can do something for the day, and then I'm like, okay, I better do that right now. It's like, no, you should probably sleep and try to be a normal person.
Yeah, time horizons, right? Like, we have a long time to accomplish a lot of good things.
Yeah.
So it's the balance between feeling as though there is pressure, like it needs to get done.
Yep.
But not rushing from thing to thing or getting ADD and like jumping from thing to thing and not giving it the time it deserves to perfect a product.
Yeah, definitely, man. And just kind of wrap up the like societal reaction part there. So obviously social media has grown a ton in the past 6 years, become more important to marketing, become a bigger part of everyone's lives. So it wasn't quite where it's at now, but it was still a big part. I know you were posting, trying to, you know, show off. That's how I shot the clients you did off. That was how I kind of found out about SoCal. That part, you're not really keeping close to the chest, right? You're putting that out there for everyone. How did you manage, like, how did you feel confident enough to be like posting, you know, what you're doing and not be like, oh, everyone's going to think I'm dumb, not enough? How did you not get imposter syndrome?
From a coaching standpoint, like when I was
Coaching standpoint, in terms of sharing your knowledge, powerlifting in terms of sharing kind of your day-to-day, you know, also post like your daily schedule. I remember I had you sitting in your Newport Beach studio, posting in your programming, and then you go to your gym.
Yeah.
And I was working at 24 Hour Fitness, hating it, being like, damn, that's the dream.
Yeah.
I'm sure it didn't feel that way in the moment, but how did you manage just like putting it all out there and be confident in that?
Yeah. So when I was younger, I was even more, like, had more blind confidence. I mean, so it's funny, like, as I've gotten older, I've become more reserved on social media because as I get older, I realize I know less and less. Yeah. So every year I'm like, dang, I really have no idea. Like, the world is such a crazy place. There's so much knowledge out there. And so I used to just, when we're young, we learn, we see this in powerlifting a lot, like with younger lifters, where they're like, oh, the best, they're doing that, so like that must be the way. Like, you have to do this thing. And so the landscape of knowledge that you have is so small that you speak in absolutes and you think it's just the whole truth.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, it's like, oh shoot, like, no, there's like plenty of ways to go about this, a lot of gray area. And so when I was posting more stuff, posting about lifting and training and coaching and stuff, I was so confident, but it's because I lacked knowledge. And so when you have someone who maybe doesn't know as much, like, they're gonna come off super cocky and confident to like make up for the insecurity of maybe they don't know as much. And that was also me probably compensating for the fact that, like, I was young. I felt like I needed to really come off as an authority for someone to respect me, and use me as their coach and whatnot. And so earlier, it was actually a lot easier. Now it's gotten harder. Like, even from a business, and, you know, doing business coaching and stuff, it's tough. You know, there are a lot of ways to grow a business, and I don't know everything. I obviously have a rap sheet of like success when it comes to the fitness business and a lot of this stuff, and helping clients, you know, do well as well. Mm-hmm. But you know, someone else pops up and does something else differently, and you start to question, like, is what I'm doing like the best way to go about this? But I think that's the better place to be. Always second guessing yourself in a healthy way of like, what more do I need to learn about this topic? How do I become a better version of myself and a more knowledgeable version of myself? And so in those early years, I just was like, thought I knew everything, actually. And now I know less.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that blind confidence can definitely be, a benefit to some extent when you're getting started. You can't get stuff there for forever, right? Or else you never grow. But I think it can definitely be a benefit.
Totally. Well, people will take you seriously and right. Believe that you know what you're talking about. And the fact of the matter is I did help people get strong. I was helping people get stronger. I was doing well with my gym. Like, all of the things, I never spoke that something that was not true. Mm-hmm. But like, looking back, like, I'll see those like recap videos you see from years ago, me talking about my story about something. And I'm like, you little kid, like, you child. how are you this confident about this thing? But I think that's just what happens when we get older. We look back, you're like, you were not as smart as you thought you were.
Yeah,
But that's how it should be.
right.
So
For sure. For sure. And I think with kind of the worry of, putting it all out there on social media, we're always worried someone's going to call us out. Someone,
yeah.
in reality, that's pretty rare. It seems to be like, we always have with our coaches who start to get this imposter syndrome. If you know one of your client, you're worth every cent they're paying you. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know one thing.
Yeah.
So when your target audience was people you knew more than could help, you were good.
That's it. You're doing the job. You're getting them stronger. You're getting healthier, whatever they asked you to do. As long as you're getting them done, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that either the finance, there's two kind of limiting factors, right? Starting a gym that people are scared to jump into. It's finances, which is down top about, and then the knowledge. And like I'm saying, you don't have to know everything. Just find your client base as someone that you know more than you can help, and then run with it and keep at it over time, right?
Totally.
So cool, man. Touchy subject, but want to jump into it. So with the building up a SoCal Powerlifting, I know there was a little bit of a bad first partnership there, and some challenges you had to overcome. As deep as you want to get into it, we obviously don't want to start any beef that I know was a challenging moment for you. And then I think it's a good thing to kind of touch on it wasn't all smooth sailing. Between that first partnership, between the suddenly having to move, all those kind of big turmoil of the early years, those big make or break moments, like where was your head at during all that stuff?
Yeah. Context on the partnership side. I started the first rendition of what the gym was with two other individuals. We found out that was not a good fit really early on. I took over within 3 months and it became my thing, but it was a very hectic, legally fueled endeavor. So that was done. But
how does that not discourage you just right off the bat? 3 months in, you're like, holy shit, this whole thing's going to be terrible. How do you just...
You're already in, right? So like Band-Aids ripped off, got to go. So, for me, I was fighting for what I believe in. And in fact, like I was already like, as soon as I was on the other side of this, I knew it'd be smooth sailing, like, 'cause I'm in control of my own destiny. And so who would I have been on? I'm going to bet on myself. And so does that cliche type of stuff where like, I knew that there was good stuff on the other side. The grass would be greener, and it was, but yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of trials and tribulations. There's been there's been getting pretty much kicked out of the first location because we were getting too busy. There's been COVID and dealing with that. Everyone has hardships, right? And I think in business, like there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be times of volatility, and the best businesses and the best business owners are willing to handle it. To be a business owner, and you have to be able to stomach perceived risk or perceived risk. Perceived risk in the sense of you're looking to expand again and you're about to influx a bunch of cash into a new space and get a bunch of new stuff. And, oh, wow, but you've worked so hard to build up this cash store. And now you're going to get rid of it because you're betting on yourself to 5X what you're doing. Yep. So that's perceived risk, right? And then there's actual risk of, the volatility aspect of market goes up and down. People lose their jobs. People cancel their gym memberships. There's lots of risky things. And so you be able to stomach the risk, because if you're leading from a fearful position, you're never going to lead as clear as possible. Yeah. So I would be a poor leader, a bad business owner, if all I was doing is being scared to take risks. Even moving into the location we're in now, looking at our finances from the previous spot, like things were really good. That scale could have financed like my life, my ideal lifestyle, what I wanted, but it wouldn't have done the same for my team. And so we went to this location with me knowing that, like, if I want this to grow and help other people from an employment standpoint and achieve their dreams, I need a bigger space to fit their dreams. I need to be able to stomach that risk because it's worth it to help other people grow as well. Yeah. And continue on this path and keep building. I've realized I just like to build shit. And so like, I love business because for me, it's just like building something cool. And I have ADHD. I'm super all over the place, but at the same time, I love the deep dive. And for me, it's all about like the growth trajectory. I love seeing it grow. I love building out the infrastructure, giving people jobs, helping people do what they love to do, helping clients get stronger, get healthier. All those aspects is so fun for me, and being able to kind of pinpoint certain things. So I know I went on a tangent there from the original kind of few risky things. But yeah, in the head, you can't have the fear. I think it's similar to an athlete going out to perform or play a game and they're coming back from an injury. And like, if your injury's in your head, like you're probably going to perform poorly or you're going to hurt yourself again. So you just have to believe. Yeah, sounds super cliche and super dumb, but at the same time, like it's like this blind belief. And they've studied entrepreneurs, and a lot of it is like that blind belief aspect of like entrepreneurs are typically glass half full, optimistic type of people. They're more willing to like give something a go because they feel as though they're going to make it no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the most impactful thing you said there to me was like leading from that place of confidence that it will work out instead of a fearful place. I noticed that even trying to lead our team, right? Like, I definitely tend to worry about the little things a little bit more, right? Whereas you're kind of a little more of a big picture looking ahead. And overall, I think that balance works out for the best. But I've definitely caught times where like I recognize my like faith in the gym is starting to get shaky, and I couldn't figure it out. And looking back, it was when COVID got crazy, and I started to see the little crack in the armor of, oh, Zack isn't super sure for the first time in his entire life. And to some extent, that allowed, I think, a lot of like deepening in our relationship and understanding. But so I don't bring it up to say that that was a bad thing. I actually think it was for the best, but it allowed me to see how quickly that could grow into a problem if it was constant panic from you, right? If the first like 2 months when I was here, all of a sudden you had like 2 weeks where I was like, all right, Zack's acting weird. I didn't know you well enough. Then I found that's because the gym might fucking close because you didn't have a space and we're trying to figure it out, right? And like those instances, you can totally see how that just spreads to the whole team.
Yeah, panic is contagious. I mean, we've seen this in like large scales with stuff like COVID when toilet paper was like out of the grocery store. Just people like, oh, I got my toilet paper. Like panic is contagious, and so you cannot lead from a place of panic or fear because your people that work for you or look to you will start to panic as well, and then they don't do their jobs well. And so it's on the leader to keep everyone aligned. And of course, like being, I feel as though, and I hope so, that I've been always forthright and honest about the situations, and it's never from a place of like false confidence or cockiness, or it's always calculated, looking at every single scenario and angle. But at the same time, if you are, if you speak from a place of fear, it's just not going to go over well. It's not the right way to lead.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between being like dismissive of coaches or employees' fears and just like not gonna work out. That's just as bad as being panicked to me. But actually addressing it, coming up with a plan, and just tackling it head on instead of getting frozen in that panic, to me, I think is the kind of big thing I've learned from you. Because I mean, I'll sit and over analyze till the end of time, right? Like you, it's kind of like, okay, cool. Boom, this is the problem, let's take action. Even if it doesn't work out, then we'll move on to plan B. But there's no waiting to build out plan A. It's just, let's do it. As we're recording, there's probably going to be audio or technical issues, but we're jumping straight in, right?
Yeah, just you throw things at the wall, you see what stakes, and move forward.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I think that's really important. So we kind of tackled a lot of the stuff that fed into building this gym into what it is now. But to kind of purify that down, that you would give advice to anyone looking to open a gym right now, like number one piece of advice, someone just ready to get started, what is it?
So I think the biggest thing, first of all, it depends on where you're located. So like in a costly environment that we're in like Southern California, and I've talked to you about this, it's like you can't just pop up like an open gym concept and do really well. I mean, if you ran the numbers, it's a low profitability. First of all, gyms don't make a huge profit margin. Like a goal profit margin should be like 20% plus, and that's with like the owner getting a decent salary.
Yeah.
So there's already not a ton of money to go around. And so first of all, like be wary of getting multiple partners on an endeavor with that low profit margin, because again, not a lot to go around already. So everyone's going to probably work a full-time job for a very long time and then start to argue about like when to take owner's draws and things like that. Yeah. So be wary of that. But yeah, I think the best gyms are the ones that are coaching based. So the client value is higher, $200, $250, $300 a month. Recurring revenue is king. And just finding a niche of a client avatar from a coaching standpoint, whether it's group classes or it's kind of a hybrid approach like we have, personal training, those are the gyms that I see doing really, really well right now. Open gym concepts are going to come and go unless you're a volume play and you've got like $1 million or $2 million to spend on building out like a really big space where you could have 2,000 members that pay $100 a month. But a lot of people don't have $2 million to spend. So if you're starting bootstrap like I did, it had to be coaching based because it's the service, it's the coaching that makes the money. Gym is just a vehicle for that to grow.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people come from like commercial gyms, right? And then are, well, this sucks, I want to build now. And they can't even identify why it sucks. And it sucks because of that, right? Going from a coaching or from a commercial gym background, like when I worked in a personal training job, the managers will pretty much tell you, like, we either want someone who pays their membership and doesn't show up, so like, pretty much making new people feel uncomfortable, or force them into training, group classes, personal training, massage, whatever is offered at the gym, so that average client value is sky high, and you're forced into one of those two extremes. So that's kind of the like 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness, that kind of model. The average Planet Fitness I saw a stat the other day has 7,000 members per location, knowing none of them use it, right? So their goal is keep paying, don't actually use it.
Yeah. And I think small enough to where it doesn't matter. They'll keep letting it run out of there.
Yes. And I think the big thing that separated kind of us from having issues with that or clients feeling unwelcome is it's working. It's up front, right? Hey, we are a coaching-based facility. Even our open gym, if you want to train on these hours outside of coaching, cool, that's totally fine, but it's expensive. It's very clearly our second option. Like from the jump, we are a coaching-based facility. We're here to help you get stronger. That's it. And so people don't feel lied to.
Yeah, low price, low ticket options attract low quality customers.
Yeah.
And so if you want to attract a higher quality customer, you have to charge higher quality prices. You don't see shitty people in the success sense driving yachts, right? It like people who are able to pay for like nicer things usually have their subsidy a little bit more.
Yeah.
Versus if you charge $10 or $30 a month, you're going to get people that are leaving dumbbells out and not taking care of the facility because they're like, I just paid $10 a month to go. Yeah, I don't care. Like they don't treat it with the respect it deserves. And so that's part of it. We could always open up those open gym hours and let it be a shit show in there, but it's not fair to all of their clients, and that's not the type of quality we want to provide. So,
yeah. And we saw that a little bit when we were the only gym open during COVID. Every rush just got these commercial moviegoers. Yeah. And that community has been at the forefront of everything we've done, every decision, right? But we lost a little bit of that there, and I think we saw kind of the impact. It didn't make sense on the business sense to turn people down, right? Turn down the income and money. Long term,
it would have under 50-person waiting list. Let's see again for that.
Yeah. I just had my phone off all the time. Yeah. And stop ringing. No, for sure. It was a wild time. Yeah, man. So I think that kind of sums it up on like initially opening the gym and getting it going. But in terms of running and scaling the gym, we talk all the time about kind of the changes that are seen, right? It went from us playing Rocket League up front because we literally had nothing to do at a time to like, a real job to some extent. So I kind of want to talk about, the biggest changes you've seen as we've grown, both in yourself and then kind of in how the gym as a whole handles business. So I know you've changed a lot over the past couple of years. Yeah. What do you think is like the biggest change you've seen in yourself?
Myself, such a tough one. I think that for me, let's see. Well, my life's changed a lot, right? When I got into opening the gym, I was still very much competing in powerlifting. It was my passion. I started doing it when I was like 17 years old, competing when I was 17. And then I had this knee redone and pretty much kind of had this sport taken away from me. I couldn't squat, couldn't train my squat anymore. And then, didn't want to compete in push-pull because that's kind of stupid. So I had to do something else, and I found jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, right? And so at that point is where I went all in the business and coaching side. Really didn't care about Zack. Yeah, I shut the Zack, the athlete portion of myself, and went all in on coach Zack, the coach, and Zack, the business owner. Of course, then I shut the coaching side a couple of years after that. But ultimately, I think it's tough to say where I've grown. So I've grown in every single way, like from everything. I mean, every day there's something new. Every week, every month, every year, there's just a huge lesson, tons of lessons, and like from having employees to figuring out health insurance, figuring out like all these